Wow. I can scarcely believe this, but ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 3 of Induction Noise. If you had told me that there was going to be this much demand for a third season a year ago, I probably wouldn't have believed you, but you guys have been messaging us and phoning us and emailing us and stopping us at car shows, and the one question we always get asked is, when is Season 3 coming? So I want to say thank you to all of you, first of all, before we start anything, because we are genuinely doing this for you guys, and also the fame and the money and the girls and the drugs, but mostly for you guys, the real fans who subscribe and check out everything that we do and encourage us to do more of it. As usual, the team over at Master Panelbeaters have graciously once again agreed to sponsor this season of Induction Noise. So this year we will be taking some project cars to them that they will be doing some bodywork and paint work on for us, and we will be able to go and show off their fantastic work when we take those cars to shows, meets, runs, all that kind of wonderful things. We're also going to be doing some racing, hopefully, so you're going to be seeing a lot of us out in public doing car things, and obviously, when you do that, you'll be able to see the fantastic work that Master Panelbeaters can do for your car. So if you have any work that needs doing on your car, please do not hesitate. Don't even think twice. Phone Steven, Master Panelbeaters, Montague Gardens. They are the best at what they do. So take your car to them. They will sort you out. So without any further ado, I still can't believe it, but this is Season 3 of Induction Noise. This week on Induction Noise. It appears we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah.
Yes,
We've been
that is correct.
I think.
Well, guys,
we're a little bit out of practice here.
Andre's been collecting Tupperware.
But the one thing we don't have, folks,
Space.
storage space.
Neil engages in a bit of body shaming.
I can
What
send
did
you.
you do?
I can send you the details of my dietitian.
Well, hello there, gents, and welcome back to the Induction Noise podcast. It's been a fat minute. We've had a nice break. Not that we've had much of a break with everything else that we've been doing, but we'll talk about that just now. I am Mr. Q, and with me as always is Neil,
Hello.
Niku,
Is it?
Andre.
Hey there.
And today's episode, we're just basically going to catch you guys up on everything that we've been up to over the last couple of months. Some cool cars that we've driven. We actually all attended a really cool event last weekend. We had some fun there. We did the Kalani Motor Show. We did a lot of stuff. There's some project cars. And yeah, we've been kind of busy.
Yeah.
Yes,
We've been
that
very
is
busy.
correct.
But I think.
Well, guys,
We're a little bit out of practice here. Clearly,
What do we-
cliffhanger there.
What's expected from us with this podcasting again?
How does it work?
how does it work?
And we were spannering a lot.
Yes.
We were spannering a lot.
Nico was spannering a lot.
Nico especially has been spannering a lot because, as you probably know from last season, we now have a Supra.
Is that a Supra?
It is a Supra. Nico, how is the car? Are we running and driving yet?
I wish. Unfortunately.
Because it was very nearly running and driving when I last saw it.
The motor's running. The motor's sweet. Everything else is semi on the car. But it's like one of those things of one step forward, two steps back. Not that we're actually that far off from running. We've kind of got The motor's sweet. The clutch feels sweet. The gearbox sounds sweet. We've got the front brakes on now. It's been fully custom modified. And we've done the rear brakes now. So we've got rear brakes, but I've not been able to test it because one thing we don't have is a fuel tank because you want to throw NS1 into it. And it's not happened.
How long has the car been there now? 4 months.
I'm not sure.
5 months? We've been working on the car
not 5 months.
4 months.
And it
Yeah,
feels
so-
like in
so
that
we've-
4 months, for a month, you've been working on brakes and all sorts of things. And the 3 months before that, you worked on a fuel tank.
It's like every chemical known to man has been in the fuel tank to try and get it clean.
And
So are
some
we at a point
chemicals
where we're
that
not
man
gonna-
hasn't seen yet.
Yeah, exactly. Combinations of
I've got one final Hail Mary that I'm going to chuck in that thing and I'm going to fix it. And you guys will see the fruits of my genius when we have a beautifully shiny fuel tank.
Oh, shiny.
Yeah.
So it
No,
sounds
it's gonna
like
be
it
gorgeous.
sounds like one that I want to make. But anyways,
No, it's gonna be beautiful.
I'll not speak about that.
You know what's shiny is that new aluminium tank you wanted to make, right? That's like the
It's not been ordered, I promise. No, not at all. Yes. So yeah, but so basically we're ready to put the car on the wheels and drive it.
Indeed.
It's fixed. It's sorted. The only thing
How are those half shafts?
The only thing. Wait. The only thing that's left. The only thing that's left is the roll cage and seat, like safety stuff inside. But mechanically, I think the car's fine.
The rear quarter?
Except for one issue. And that issue is thanks to a shop called... No, I won't say the shop because I'm not an arsehole like they are. They broke our spindle knuckle by trying to get the half shafts off. So, it was probably not necessary to get the half shafts out, but I was thinking, looking at everyone at the Lemons race that we already attended, some people work on cars, would you believe, while racing. And I thought, well, if I can't get the half shaft out with a 12-ton press, how are we going to do it at track? If we maybe break a half shaft.
Well, I could
it's
sit on
probably
it.
it's not gonna come
That's
out.
at least like 14 tons.
At least the half shaft won't pull out. That's like
Yeah.
one safety like we had.
The half shaft's pull-out game is not
It's
strong.
very weak.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very weak. So you know,
Cancel.
I thought now we break a diff, we break a half shaft. What do we do now? You know, that's something that you should be able to replace in 10 minutes. You should be able to take a half shaft out in like.
So it's for ease of maintenance.
Yes, it's for ease of maintenance and racing. And the arsehole broke it. He basically, for a 40-ton press like he has, you need a collar to grab the hub by the collar with a collar, and then you're going to press out, and it's not going to press on the, let's call it, arms of the hub.
So the bad guy basically did it wrong and screwed it up.
Yep, so it's broken. I'm waiting for one to be delivered from Eswatini.
And this is one of the items that is not sort of shareable with the
No.
general Toyota range.
It's
weirdly
something
enough.
that's not shareable at all. The Mark III Supra was... So fun fact, the rear subframe of a Mark III Supra is modeled on a Porsche 944 because in the 80s, that was the best handling coupe on the market.
But not you mean it to say it's not an Alfa. There's not some Alpha that was
Unfortunately,
not the Sud, not the lovely
Not
Alpha
the
Sud.
Sud, not the... Yeah.
For the sake of illustration,
maybe the Japanese
see the
just-
Porsche rear end.
I just think that maybe the Japanese didn't consider the existence of Italy.
It
when,
could be.
when they made that decision.
I think that's exactly what it was.
They
So-
just didn't acknowledge that there is a country called Italy that makes Alfa Romeo.
Exactly.
So they just didn't look in that direction
Which
at
is
all.
God tier motoring. But
Obviously.
anyways.
I'm an Alpha boy now, by the way.
Yes.
Converted him.
So just for interest sake, they basically bought a Porsche 944 and modeled the rear subframe and suspension arms and everything kind of according to that, but just beefed it up. So I was hoping I can get a 944 spindle up, but it's a different design. You can kind of see the similarities, but it's completely different. But I've got one.
Same but different.
Yeah, same but different. So I've got one on the way from Eswatini, but once that's
We're importing one.
we're importing one.
Overnight pass from Eswatini.
It was either that or buy another Mark III Supra for $8,000
Oh,
And
wow.
take that off it.
and take that off it and bin the rest of the car.
But the one thing we don't have, folks, is
Space.
storage space.
That's the issue.
So let's buy another car for one part.
Talking about buying another car, I think the fleet has grown a bit more, if I'm not mistaken.
And it may grow a bit more still.
Andre, would you like to elaborate on what ward we have grown?
You've gone and bought a go-kart, haven't you?
Yes. I got rid of one go-kart and traded it in on a much bigger go-kart. So I've got a car that is very light and very open and apparently very fast. I bought it without an engine, which doesn't make it very fast.
No, I was going to say, that doesn't make it very fast at all.
And I've agonizingly looked for an engine that would work there, and I've decided to buy one. So I have an engine and I have a car.
But we're not going to say what engine yet. Or are we going to reveal it?
We don't
I'll
have
just
to.
eat my chips and listen to you guys speak. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
My Dorito chips. That's all you're going to say.
Be there or be square. Triangles, whatever.
B13.
Okay, now it's gone. Now,
Okay, well.
now the cat's out of the bag.
Let's rotate to the next point.
So,
Let's rebuild, which is also going to be like
That was
quite
unnecessary,
often.
Neil. That was unnecessary. That was just mean.
mean.
Don't worry,
So
I've
you've
also
got
had to...
a Lotus 7 race car, essentially.
Yes, it is a Lotus 7 inspired race car, but it's a FVH, which is a Fred van Heerden build. It's quite a well-known 7 build, like the Birkins and the whatever in South Africa. But the FVH is quite a well-known in the racing circuit.
And was your car purpose-built as a race car, or was it ever on the road?
100% race car. There's something weird going on there. I looked at it with, I was working with it on some of the stuff with Herman from Mischief Motorsport. And he looked at the car and said, you know what, there's only one engine that can fit in, and that's the engine that was in there previously. No other engine can fit in there because this car was, the chassis is built in such a way that the engine basically sit next to your legs. So I think it must have been shortened or something, but it is probably done
It's probably got some extra bracing in the front end for that famous Lotus 7 understeer that you get.
It's a pretty serious car. It's done some crazy times with some good drivers in the past.
And it's left-hand drive.
It's left-hand drive, yes. But it's weird. Like your legs are right next to the engine, so it's weird. Like a 7 is normally a bit longer in the nose.
I mean, my 7, your feet would have been sort of next to your rear main seal, so almost next to the engine.
So my feet is right next to the middle of the engine.
So it's a
you're going to get warm.
Mid?
It's gonna get warm, yeah.
Is it like, is the engine basically for this, it's mounted in front of the front?
It's
I suppose to make it...
Is it behind the
It's always behind the front
behind the
axle.
front.
So this one is moved.
mid-front mounted.
This one is mounted further back.
Yeah, I was
for
going
weight
to say,
distribution.
they probably moved it back for weight distribution.
You know what you
for
bought?
racing.
You bought a budget Panels race car, basically.
Yeah, because the
Honest.
fuel tank is also next to the driver's seat.
I'm sit right next to the fuel tank. That sounds very
I'm
safe.
never getting into
Yeah,
that with
I
you.
want
Very
Yeah.
safe.
It's
I'm
very
sitting
safe.
on top of the fuel tank, but I also bought a fire extinguisher with the car, so everything's
Great,
gonna
perfect. That's all under control.
it'll be fine.
It'll be fine. Yeah, it's fine.
And you're going to upgrade all your fire kit.
Oh, I thought you were going to say
Speaking-
my insurance policy, my life policy.
That also.
But yeah, I'll also do that.
Speaking of storage space and housing of the fleet, where exactly is this race car of yours?
It is on an undisclosed farm in the winelands of Cape Town.
So
in
you
a
now have
warehouse.
you now have cars scattered amongst the winelands of the Western Cape, as well as Heidelberg,
Yes.
as well as the southern suburbs, and then you have
Yes.
some cartage stuff at Killarney.
That's
You have a well-distributed
I don't see the
network
problem, yeah.
of
You've created
Of
a barn
assets.
find. That's all, man. You're the original founder of a barn find. There you
very
go.
cool.
There you go.
Neil, you don't have a project yet, but you are kind of looking.
Yeah, so two things happen. Maybe I can give like a short update on the karting side of things, because I've been trying to get quicker this year by spending time off the track. and doing things off the track to try and go as quick as possible in the DD2.
Bro, I've stayed off the track for about 2 years of the karting track, and I haven't gotten any faster.
I can
What
send
did
you.
you do?
I can send you the details of my dietitian, basically. So I've
Body
I've
shaming.
gained-
Body shaming.
Yeah.
Come on, guys.
I mean, look, that's kind of like the reality of motorsport, right? Is I've gained a second purely just by getting my backside in line. But unfortunately, Nico's actually been at the track the last few races, and we've been fiddling with setup, and I've been putting wheels the wrong way around again, stuff like that. And then my second last event of the year, I misjudged one of the heats, misjudged the starting, and I wrote my kart off, basically, the chassis.
On the start line.
On the start line, literally on the start line.
And there was a video of that.
Yes.
On our YouTube
For
channel.
YouTube, insert clip here.
Again.
And now, if you slow that down, you'll see, luckily my thumbs weren't on the inside of the wheel, because I checked afterwards it gets violently ripped out of my hands. So luckily, I didn't clip my thumbs in some way, because I could have probably,
Ended up without opposable thumbs.
Yeah, and could not be able to do this. You would have seen this, basically. But yeah, so, I mean, that
Next time he's trying to show someone thumbs up, they're thinking, why are you going up yours, bro?
Yeah, exactly. So it was actually, to be honest with you guys, was quite a bitter pill to swallow for me. So I stood there, in the garage afterwards, because typically as those weekends go, when you try and sort things out yourself, you rock up there on the Friday. I realized my chassis is cracked. You take the engine off, take the seat out, get the chassis rewelded, put the seat back in, put the motor back on. You get home, you thought you're going to get home at 6, you get home at 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, because you don't have, you try and do things on a budget. Get there the next day, get in the kart, qualify, race, and then, before you know it, I told Andre as well earlier, I got disqualified from the first race because, my equipment is not sort of the newest stuff. So I got disqualified in E01 because I'm using an illegal motor or an illegal component in the motor that
Crime doesn't pay, Neil.
that
You
doesn't
just
make
need
me
to work
faster,
harder.
by the way.
Makes you slow, actually.
Yeah, and then...
So this is a lesson, kids. You should not cheat. You should just work harder.
Yeah, exactly. Work harder or get a richer dad, basically, to get you to buy your, up-to-date equipment.
Looking at you, Lance Stroll.
I stood there, in front of the old Zanardi. I said in the beginning of the year, I want to do 41-second lap times, get down to that bracket. I think you two were actually at the track. I did my 141-second lap. Did a couple of 42 deads in qualifying and leading up to it. Never got into that again. But then I kind of thought, this is it of the braking. But long story short, I decided, screw it. I bought a new to me chassis. And I'll tell you guys, my goal for next year is I want to try and get a podium at least in one of the heats.
Here we go, man.
I want to try and get a podium in one of the heats. So I want to get a P3. And if I get a P3 overall for one of the race days, I don't care if there's only 3 that finish and I'm one of the 3 finishers.
I don't care, man.
Now that sounds like a plan. We can arrange that.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit of light sabotage in the pits.
So I'm thinking what we can do as a project is with your Zanardi. I know you're going to hang it up or whatever, but maybe me and you are speaking about this. Maybe we try and get some random motor for it. I kind of know a guy that said he'll take a 10K for
He's got a 10K motor actually in the garage.
He's got a 10K motor. I'm not sure who it is.
He is running out of storage space
guy?
with all of his
exactly.
Who's this guy? Is he running some charity shop?
He
Or what's
he apparently has a Lotus he's trying to build, but he's not bitten yet. So
but maybe we try and see if we can, even with a bent chassis, make the Zanardi into a Gymkhana monster.
yeah, we could go do
something,
some of the Gymkhana events
Yeah,
with it.
That could be quite a fun toy.
I'm actually
How
curious.
about a drift kart?
Or a drift kart.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
Just put plastic wheels on.
Yeah.
I'd actually be keen for a Gymkhana. The next Gymkhana thing, we must find out. It's probably only going to be next year.
Yeah.
If I haven't sold my card
probably.
by then, I haven't sold it yet, then we must go do it. With our
Yeah.
cards. With our D2s.
There's,
Just
it's
put
right around.
32 ratio in and wait.
And the funny thing is, it's literally we can take it out of the garage and push
we
it
can
around the
almost
corner.
drive it there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So, update on my project. I still have it. Anyway, so...
You've done some work or some maintenance work on the Jagan though.
Yeah, the Jagan has kind of become a bit of a project, to be honest. You see, these X-Type diesels, they have a couple of issues that sort of happen all at once when they reach a certain mileage. And my car is sort of at that mileage now. So the first thing that happens is the EGR valve clogs up, which causes intermittent engine warning
sounds like
light.
it needs an EGR valve delete, if I'm honest.
Well, you could do that, but it's lots of surgery and lots of plumbing to do that and to get the computer to accept that. So it's much easier to just take the whole thing apart and then clean it and reassemble it. But I must say, the YouTube videos that I watched to see how exactly you go through this process, they were very helpful because, I mean, it shows you exactly how to take the thing apart and what to do. But if you're thinking of doing this at home, be warned that all of those videos show a car where this has already been done.
Okay, so
So
you can't do it
the
at home.
amount of crap that comes out of your EGR valve and your intake manifold, you can multiply that by 6 bajillion compared to what's in the videos. I swear.
So you needed a skip for all the shit that comes out there to drive it away.
Even 6 cleanups of my garage later, you cannot walk through my garage and not get covered in oil.
So
The amount of gunge and just thick sludge that comes out of that intake is
What's the symptoms?
unreal.
What were the symptoms that you were
So the
experiencing?
symptoms are simply that the car goes into limp mode. You get a flashing glow plug light on the dashboard, and the car goes into limp mode. You turn it off, you turn it back on, and it's back to normal.
Okay.
And the issue gets worse if you, for example, start the car, pull it out the driveway, turn it off, close your garage door, get in, start it, and then you'll have
Because it's
that problem.
cold and it's like gunky.
So if you start it and shut it down whilst cold, you'll get that problem the next time you start the car.
So you got to rev it on your driveway.
Yeah, if you run it up to temperature, then it's fine. And it only sometimes happens, and I had it once or twice where I was sitting in traffic and it would suddenly go into limp mode once the traffic starts moving again. But I took everything apart, I cleaned it up, sorted it out.
Works
That's
again.
working fine.
Cool.
The other 2 issues that they have are clogged injectors, which you can sort out with a fuel additive. And then the major problem that I'm having now, which I'm actually going to do a video on fixing it,
Alpha Envy.
is alpha envy, but also the turbo actuator. So the car's got like these variable vanes on the turbo housing that directs your exhaust gases at the turbine. And they are operated by this little electronic servo motor, which they call the turbo actuator. And what happens is those vanes get gummed up with coke and just carbon and crap.
Don't just get rid of the coke, man. Like, I mean,
I want to say
We are
like a
jack
party.
drivers after
Do
all.
you want us to
is
come
this-
help you
this
clean this coke? You know, I've got a
This
no.
is
Sorry,
the,
I mean a vacuum for that.
old Jag, anyway.
If you are going to do coke, don't do it near the intake.
Yeah. So it gets gummed up, and then the actuator cannot move the little vanes anymore, and then the actuator actually eventually burns out. So the symptoms of that is basically you'll see increased fuel consumption, and you will see a loss of power. So it still pulls, but you know it should be pulling more than it is. And it also feels like you have to give it more gas than what you used to, you know, put your foot down a bit more. And there's an easy fix for that. I'm going to be doing it pretty soon, and I'm going to make a video on it. So we'll show you guys how that works.
So
But as much as I absolutely hate having a car that I sort of distrust, I must admit I really quite enjoy working on it and spannering on it and fixing things and making things happen. It's quite lekker.
Therapeutic.
I mean, that's kind of like we're all petrol heads. We want to do that, but instead of beating the dead cat,
What the poor
Tell
cat do
us-
to
Jeez.
that went south?
Wow.
I really don't want to mention the J word, and that's all I'm going to say.
So anyway,
where's your love from Alpha come from?
So
This is what I want to know. This is
This-
like news to us all.
this weekend, okay, so for a while now, I've been thinking, if I had to replace
Your
the
thoughts
Jag,
about an Alpha?
You've been like a closeted
look.
alpha fan.
I'm not a closet Alpha fan. I've always liked Alphas. It's just that they've never really built a car that spoke to me the way that this does. And
He's never really listened before.
anyway, so I've been looking at Giulia's because I think the 2-liter turbo Giulia, whether you're going for the base model, the Super, or the Veloce, they're just insane value for money right now.
100%.
You can get one with under 100,000 Ks for like 300K.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of car for
mad.
money.
It's polo money.
And-
It's used polo money for
It's Polo Vivo money.
for 3 Series killer.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, I would take that car over a 3 Series every day of the week, twice on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And that was my theory, at least, until this weekend when we went to the Alpha Track Day, and then the very kind people from Roller had some cars there,
And Stellantis.
and Stellantis.
Giannis was there. He was organizing this
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing.
Giannis
With the Alpha
organised
Club
it
of
all.
Cape Town.
And I had a go in a Giulia Veloce. And a 2-liter turbo has no business being that quick
And that good.
and that good. I mean, going around a corner in that thing,
Insane.
it feels so
Andre was
so
throwing
nice.
11s on it, basically. Like, Andre was like literally like, I thought like, I didn't, we're not going to talk about who's going to be buying that demo. But like, I
It was
thought
used
like,
to demonstrate. I just demonstrated
I
that it can
honestly
go
thought
fast.
like, okay, he's going to do a burnout there. Like, but then he just loaded up like, poof, and off he goes, basically. It was,
Yeah.
Man, the manual says that's how you get away fast. So that's what I did.
But it you know, for a 4-door saloon to be both that quiet, comfortable, and refined, and still go around corners the way that thing does, it doesn't really make sense. But it is such a beautiful combination of stuff.
The party trick of that car is the chassis. It is the steering and the chassis.
Yeah,
Like a normal run-of-the-mill, small executive car does no business of having a chassis that good.
no, it's
But you know why the chassis are good, right?
it's a race car.
No, so, Alpha, so what BMW does when they build a 320, 318, whatever, so they build a 3 Series and then they say, ooh, we've got this new sedan, now we're going to go in the back room and we're going to build an M car, right? And we're going to, make it beefier and do all these things and make it an M car, and then the M3 comes out a year or so later. What Alpha did is they said, we're going to build an M3 killer on day one. Let's build a QV, which is the V6 twin-turbo, very fast one that I was drove on the weekend. They built that to beat the M3. And then they said, oh, I guess we'll need to build a normal one as well. Let's just put a smaller engine in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to be fair, that's mostly because they don't have the budget to develop 2 chassis.
Well, I mean, at least
But it works.
Exactly.
It works.
and they developed the right one from the beginning, so it's fine.
Let's not beat about the bush. The Giulia looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Even in base form with small wheels, it still looks beautiful.
And the Veloce looks extra
The
good with
the Veloce
good
with the
spec.
bigger wheels, it's a stunning looking thing.
And the thing is, it's
And the
also
3 Series just
looks average.
can't. It can't
but
keep
the thing
up
is,
anymore.
The Giulia, what's also is the thing is it's actually a user. It's not just a party trick. It's a fast car. It's a good handling car. It's actually a good quality car.
Yeah.
The interior is proper.
it's really nicely put together. It's comfortable.
It's got the 8-speed box. It's economical. So I've been saying this all along. I'm glad there's other people who are sharing this with me. I used to own one.
I'm looking at Neil here next to us because usually he has to worry about like me and you going on alpha tangents. Now it's Quentin as well. I see he wants to mention something here. But
I'll
It's just
mention.
like, I want a Nissan. I just
So, Neil-
want a Nissan.
So Neil, tell us about your Alpha Day.
I had a lot of fun, and you know what? I would buy an Alpha to be part of the Alpha Club, because that's how much fun it was for me. That like the different people, and I totally get the hype around it. I think actually, for me, funny enough, I thought about what 2 things normally stand out for me about when I get into a car. First thing is driving position, and when I got into even the Stelvio, I felt like I was sitting underneath the seat. And for me, I mean, I'm 6 foot, more than 6 foot. I'm not sitting on top of the wheel. I'm actually sitting underneath it. So for me,
You don't
actually,
sit on top of the car, you sit in the
you
car.
sit in the car, and that's I think we need to talk about underrated mods in cars. I think seats are underrated
100%.
because the seat gives you so much more and support, and you got that in both the Giulia and the Stelvio.
And
Great
I
seat.
must say, the Stelvio was actually also very impressive for me because
Jeez, yeah,
As an
I love that
SUV,
name.
you forget
again,
it's one.
You don't realize it's an SUV because, I mean, I didn't really drive the Stelvio, but I went with Niku around turn 5 in it, and he just puts his foot down and it just hauls ass. I
It
mean,
handles like a big hatchback.
Yeah.
That's not like an SUV.
Granted, on the straight, you can sort of tell that it's speedboating a little bit. You know, the nose picks up and the arse drags
It's
on the floor.
definitely, it's got that
But-
feeling. It's got that feeling. I had one when I took my 4C in for a service a year or two ago at the agents. They gave me a Stelvio, a normal one like that to drive.
Yeah.
And it was kind of what's weird about it. The handling is good, but it's almost like the old Alphas, like the old cars. It's got body roll. It's
Yeah.
got a bit of body roll, but it handles. It
Yeah.
sticks. You can feel it, but it's got a bit of body roll. And the one thing that's a little bit disconcerting for me is the brakes, because it does have a bit of a. There's a
I
bit
don't
of
know,
a,
dude. I
there's
got
a
on
bit
the
of a
brakes.
pendulum action.
I got on the brakes.
They work, but you can feel the weight shift.
That's
more
actually
than
one of the
the-
That's
other
because
things.
you're used to driving your Alpha, which has no weight to shift.
But you know what?
so
That's the
true.
other thing. Like even if you drive like a cheaper car sometimes, and that's the other thing I picked up. And by the way, your little Spider has got a really great pedal feel as well. We'll get to that later on. But it's pedal feel, brake pedal feel. I feel a lot of modern cars these days. It's either on or off.
Yeah.
So you're either doing this, and the nice thing was actually when we took it around, and I didn't go, brake too hard for me. I pushed it through the corners a little bit, and that was a lot of fun. But the brake pedal feel is really good, and I think that's an underrated thing also in cars these days. Like a lot of these cars are like
most modern cars
on
are
and off.
way
could actually-
over assisted.
We can actually compare it
because
because Stellantis also had a few of their other products. They're more kind of affordable entry level products. So they had the Opel Mokka there,
Mokka and the
they
Corsa.
had the Corsa there. So I drove the Corsa.
Corsa had poke off the line.
It was
man.
quite impressive.
quite
It-
quick
it-
off
I
the
mean,
line.
for a 1.2 turbo 3-cylinder, that thing hauls.
It hauled, and it was, you could feel it's got little Maury Biscuit small tires on it.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I think it was
of
the
course.
entry level one.
Yeah.
So you could feel through the corners. It's obviously going to be a bit more.
It's a bit
more
unfair
wobbly.
to put that there.
Exactly,
You've got, like,
because
the
you just drove
Alphas
a
there.
Giulia and then you're getting into that.
you get into
but
that.
but you could really feel the brake feel because that thing's literally like Neil says, it's a switch. It's on
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
And my wife's got the Hyundai Kona, same thing.
Yeah.
If you put your foot on, it just suddenly brakes. You want to go through the windscreen.
You can even compare that to Sims, right? Compare like mine and Quinton's Sim, like the normal Logitech stuff, to your load cells. It's the same, and that makes you a better driver. Is the brake feel? It's simple as that.
Most modern cars have no brake feel. I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally just you put your foot on the brake and it stops instantly. And
Yeah.
and the thing is, it's because most new car buyers are not car people.
They don't know
So
how to
they-
modulate the brakes.
Not just that, but they touch the brake and they go, "Ooh, this has got really good brakes. It stops on a
Yeah,
dime."
but
It's
you don't
like,
want that necessarily.
You must feel the brakes on my Corsa.
Yeah, and
It's
unless
like-
you get
yes.
in an emergency situation going through a corner where you transfer all the weight onto the nose and then the rear end comes out, and like you accidentally push accidentally put off the stability program because you're fiddling with your cappuccino.
It sounds like a ride you had in your Jimny recently.
Jeez, yeah, I did experience something like that. Actually, it was quite interesting.
But I mean, one of the most fun things about me for the Alpha Track Day is just, firstly, the turnout. Like it's like Neil said, like we had this awesome opportunity where Stellantis was putting this on with Alfa Romeo Club of Cape Town, and it was almost that thing of like, just everyone rocked up and everyone was super nice. And what was cool about it all for me is, I mean, we obviously not racing drivers, but we've got some driving experience.
Who's not racing drivers?
Well, I mean,
Did you
we
not
are
race
a
this year?
professional
This
racing
year.
Did you not
driver.
race this year?
we'll take a book out of Lewis Hamilton's and be like #blessed, #humble.
Yeah,
we'll stay humble.
Yes.
Yeah.
Results-
Act like
the
you
result-
haven't
Act
raced
like,
this year.
yeah. So, but what was cool for me is that we actually got the opportunity to assist other guys that hasn't been around track yet. And all three of us kind of got to go into quite interesting
we
cars.
were instructors.
Yeah, we were instructors on the Alpha Day. and we all got into interesting
So what cars did you go? Tell us
that-
about the cars you went to.
So the cars, it's not like it's cars that I've never been in, just because I've been fortunate to be in quite a few alphas. But I went in GT with the 3.2 liter Buster. Spider looks exactly like mine, but I had the GT wheels on it, but the 3 liter Buster.
Nice. A lot of V6.
A lot of V6
Magic.
goodness, and then I went in 595 Abov, which I adore.
Oh, nice. Little
I
500.
adore.
They make a
lot.
really good noise, those
Pocket
things.
rocket, yeah.
Especially this one, because I believe it had like a record Monza exhaust. It had a
upgrades.
bit of a tune on
It sounds good.
Yeah, it was barking.
It sounded like a 4C on the straight.
It was barking up the door of something, I'll tell you. It was awesome. But it couldn't keep up to something Neil was in. And I didn't know if I should fear. I don't know if I should have feared for Neil's life or be like, Neil is in the coolest car ever, because you were in a Fiat that is essentially a death trap.
What did you learn?
Uno Turbo. Uno Turbo on semi-slicks.
Was this a standard Uno Turbo?
No, it
Neil?
was not standard. It went like the clappers. So this guy, luckily the
So
driver...
it pulled away from a modified above 595.
That was one of I think the highest corner grip on the day was what I experienced next to the guy. So I mean, if I think back now, I don't know what he was doing in the novice group, because he said like, "No, I've done a couple of track days."
Yeah, what did you do?
I know it was like in
Maybe
the
it was
beginning.
also humble. # humble.
Yeah, I said I literally said to him, listen, do this, but further than that, to the corners, like that thing, like it moved down the back straight. It was quite something, because it was in. He knows the car. He's had it for I think 22 years, and that's his pride and joy. And he said like this is one of the last things. And then he's going to park it off and do something. So we spent the first 5 minutes before he went out just talking about the car. But it sat through the corners, and of course you feel this little, while the boost comes in, I felt like, oh, why are you getting on the power so early? But then you realize because of lag. So you have to get on early. But as soon as it rolled on boost, like we went down the backside, it was like, the whole thing was like shaking. But
Good
what
vibration.
a cool experience.
Yeah, I feel,
like an awesome experience.
I feel like
Such a cool little car.
Yeah, you were in two of the cars that I think is like kind of the most interesting, because you were in that and you went in like an old Spider.
Yeah, Andre pulled me in.
It's like a 70s. I kind of passed over to Neil because I went out with the one guy. So I went down the pit lane, and the guy's like, "Oh, I've never been around the track ever." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I went round with him, and then afterwards I was kind of tired because I went in other cars before, and then I stopped in the pits, and the guy's like, "Oh, my friend also wants to have a go in this car."
Who was French?
Yeah, my friend. So then his friend jumped in. The guy whose name was Arno or something, a French guy. He's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Arno. Have you been around track?" "No." And I'm like, "Neil, I think you should come and drive this car."
So he gets out and I get in. I thought this guy's been around. So like halfway around the first course, like I've never been around. I was like, "Oh shit, okay, well I should probably like show you the lines a little bit."
So the guy's coming up to turn one, and he's like, "What should I do?"
So it was quite an experience. But I mean, it was nice. Like actually, then as we said, we've you even if you've got like racing experience and you've maybe not been around the track, there's so many people around Karani that's probably got thousands of laps. But I think there's some fundamentals that if you've been on a track before that you can pass on to everyone.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I think we all actually picked up on the same thing. Number one was using the track, whole track.
Yeah.
So stay wide. So you're like, with a turn in, you're like, stay wide, stay left.
Like people are driving like 90-degree
We're
angles.
like, stay wide, and you are actually saying it, stay wide, and the next moment they just start turning in.
Yes, they start turning in basically.
Friends do not let friends apex early.
Exactly.
Just
Fact.
saying.
It's fact.
I'm firmly believe that everyone should go take your normal road car and go to a track day, because you need to feel what it feels like when you do. Because I realize like we're driving these sort of capsules that weigh 1.5 plus tons these days, 2 tons these days. Okay, fine.
Apart from Andre.
I'll get to that point, like why, like with the Alpha.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
I look at your face and I know what you want to say. Basically, I know you that well. But I think people misunderstand that you drive something that's there's some do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
People don't understand weight transfer, don't understand steering input, and that's the nice thing the karting teaches you. You realize like what karting actually values,
and that smoothness with weight transfer and all of that. Yeah. But I must say, like I said to you guys on the day as well, I felt a little bit, just a little bit of smugness that you guys get to experience what it's like getting into a high-performance car with someone when you have no idea whether
know
they
who
can
they are?
drive or not. Because that's kind of what I do on a daily basis. That's my job. I put people into 600 horsepower Ferraris and then I just hold on for dear life. But we do it on public roads, which is
which is a bit more scary. But I mean, I have to say, like, and kudos, and I think that's just, I don't want to say it's like an alpha thing, you know, whatever. It's just the personality that purchases alpha 90% of the time. It's not going to 100% of the time be, but they were all respectful and kind of drove within their limits.
They were
Like,
all
it was-
enthusiasts. The guys who rocked up that came to this were all
Yeah.
enthusiasts.
But
They
they
call
weren't-
people.
It
So
wasn't
they
like
get the-
There were no cowboys.
there was no measuring contests,
No.
for lack of a better word. And like, it's like you could realize, like Neil says, there's certain stuff you just pick up on. The other thing I picked up on is the way they break into a corner. It's they're not getting on the brake and like you would
progressive.
say, there's no progressiveness
on
on
it.
it. Yeah, they jump on it, but what I also picked up, they jump on it and then they lift and they jump and lift. You know, that's it's kind
They're
of
not
that,
smooth. They are very...
exactly. And then at the end of the day, they enter in a corner way too fast. They want to do their entry speed into a corner. They think if they enter fast, they're gonna come out fine. But
Slow in,
Yes.
fast out.
especially turn 5. But I mean, turn 5
Yeah.
is
Turn
I had
5
a-
is fun. I love that.
I had a few eerie moments because I think people the one of the the sort of nuances with Killarney is turn 1 is downhill.
Yeah.
So you can't brake at the same place you're braking at turn 5.
Yeah.
You brake in turn 1. So
Not just that,
a lot
but
of
turn
people
1's
think-
got this big bump in front of it. And if you're going fast enough down the straight, you'll unload the car going over that bump. And if you try and brake just after it, you're not going to have brakes. I mean,
and
there's-
also just
there's
generally it's,
nothing
road, it's still a road car. I think people need to realize, especially, and I think we've all realized, especially me with the. That's why I mean, honestly, I don't want to take my Z anymore. Like we joke about the weight and stuff, but if you want to, like us, we want to start pushing on a little bit. It's fine if you want to pooter around, but if you want to start pushing on, you're just going to cook the brakes. Basically.
and look,
And I had that. Like I had a guy, like I was out in also a variety. I was out in a diesel 159.
Yeah,
one
automatic.
Automatic.
Automatic diesel alpha. It's not something you hear every day.
And he, when I did one lap, and I think I drove maximum like in the straight 140. He's like, do this. Here's my recommended line. He said like, okay, I've been around the track. I said, cool, go. I'm gonna sit next to you, and you just go. He bombed it into turn 1, and by the time we got to turn 2, I could hear that. It's like. And when we got to turn 5, I'm like, is that the brakes? He said, yes, it's tired now. I was like, okay.
But I got quite lucky. I
you were
happened
in the
to...
fastest. Yeah, you were in the fastest car of the day.
No, not quite.
Not your own one, and then the first fastest 4-door.
It was one of the fastest standard cars of the day. Absolutely. So I found a Giulia QV, a beautiful blue Giulia QV.
That's my favorite color
He says
on that car
he
as
says
well.
he found it. He kind of made a beeline. I
Yeah,
checked.
yeah.
I honestly, and you're gonna think I'm joking.
The guy was on his
Literally-
way out on track, and Andre's just like, you need an instructor.
That's exactly what he did. There were 7 cars, and the Giulia was the last of the 7. It was kind of like outside of the
No,
7.
it wasn't.
Yes, it was. and I just saw
The guy
Andre,
needed an instructor. I was there.
He was literally walking like almost like he had flaps on. He was like, "Yo, so how does this work? How does this? Hey, you need an instructor, bro. Like, can I assist you?" Like,
No, so I just went and asked, do you already have an instructor? And the guy said,
bullshit.
lovely man, said, so no, I don't have an instructor. I'm like, I'm Andre. Pleased to meet you. I will be your instructor.
I am a driving god. Please give me your keys. I'm gonna drive first.
So the plan was they suggested that we drive first, unless some people didn't. Some people said, oh, I want to just drive my own car. This
Andre
guy
didn't
was-
give us choice.
No, this guy. I told him generally we drive first, and then you can drive.
Was
But
the guy
guy-
in the car when you took it?
He was. He was. Just before I sped off, he jumped in. So it was a great guy. So I took an out lap, explained some of the lines, and then I gave him a bit of a flying lap. On the second. So I did kind of press on a bit in the second lap, and the guy became quiet, and then he started making some noises. The guy was like, ooh, ooh. I didn't realize my car was this fast. But and then I gave him, and I kind of showed him same story.
But it just goes to show that even enthusiasts who drive high-performance cars, they don't realize what their car is truly capable of until it
absolutely.
goes on a track with someone who can drive.
I mean, I'm not the best driver, and I wasn't pushing the
that's the
car
thing.
to 11 tenths,
You'll
but
always hear-
I was pushing on a bit.
You'll always hear that as well. The guys who are generally speaking pretty decent drivers are the first ones to say, I'm not the world's best driver. Because generally speaking, guys like us have been out with insane drivers, and we
Yeah, or
realize
you've
it's
shared
like,
You
yeah,
share
I
the track
can't-
with other
You know
people
there's
that are
better
really
drivers
fast.
out there.
Yeah, I can't do what that guy does.
Yeah.
And
Although,
it's
Natalie-
humbling, but it's
yeah.
also, shit.
Nat-
That
Gives a bit of
was,
perspective.
Natalie, dude.
that
I still.
Must invite her to the next offer.
Yeah. She really was.
and
good.
we can now do remote podcasts, so
Yes.
we can get her on a remote session and invite her as a guest.
So here's my thing, right? With I mean, I started when I got home. I went onto Auto Trader, and of course I started looking at alphas. Right? I always joke. You know what?
This week, Nico and I looked at the least amount of alphas you guys were looking at.
I did. I looked at it a few times. So here's my recommendation. Like sometimes it's like trying to convince me that Jake Paul is a good boxer. You don't have to tell me he's a good boxer. I can see the guy's got skill. Just let it sell itself, Like that's the thing. Like that's the thing. I'm gonna have to deal with Andre and Nico then, basically, if I buy an Alpha, and I'm gonna be part of this thing where I have to admit that I can't drive a BMW or anything because I still think a 3 Series is a pretty damn good car.
Look,
I still think it's pretty good looking.
It's not bad.
I'm not.
It's not bad, but it's not as good as the Julia.
You see,
And
that's
I'm a
the- that's
BMW
the-
fan.
That's the thing. You can't
We haven't-
say anything. That's the thing. That's my sort of like thing.
Neil,
You
we
can't
haven't
say
said,
anything.
we haven't said anything, by the way.
Dude, but that's the point. You
I
see,
have
we're
had-
convinced. You can just show us and let us experience the
I've-
product. Nico
I've-
let me drive his freaking car. I was looking at spiders for Pete's sake. I've never looked at spiders online until he let me drive it around the track.
I've
So
owned like
Bob
4 or
Spindle
5 3
Yeah.
series. I've owned 4 or 5 3 series in my life, and the Julia is better. It just is.
But
I actually saw. I've got a friend of mine who messaged me afterwards after we posted stuff. He said like, you should have invited me. I said to him, just buy Julia. As I said to him, you can just buy Julia. You'll be happy because he's been looking at one. I said, listen, buy a Julia,
Don't think about it.
join the Alpha Club and come to a track day.
Yeah.
That's what I said to him.
And look, the one thing I really just love about the brand, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna kind of go on about it.
Yeah, of course you can.
Is-
It's also because you've got a Nissan guy, an ex-Nissan guy. And I told you guys, as soon as when
Yes.
when Johannes
Yes.
left, I said to him, you've got the right guy now. And hopefully Johannes watches this or listens to it. You've got the right guy that understands enthusiasts because that's what he did at Nissan. And as much as it was a loss for Nissan now, it's a massive gain for Alpha.
I
right?
think
for
I feel like,
Stellantis, for the
yeah,
entire
I
Stellantis.
feel like this is the
brand,
thing
basically.
that can really save Stellantis. Like having someone like Janus on board can really save Stellantis because the issue is it's never been the car. It's always been the
technology is good.
perception. Yeah, it's always been the perception of what a brand promotes and
The customer experience, right?
Exactly. And I mean, for me personally, what I love about Alpha is look at the older cars, right? The car, my car, you drove.
I
It's a car
enjoyed it.
from
28 years old.
It's a car from 1996. The oldest.
The car's
Spider.
older than Nico, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't take much.
The older Spider that you went around. Once again, he wasn't going the fastest, but he was still getting after
Yeah,
it.
it was still getting going.
And
It's
then
a 40-year-old car.
the GTV6 of Matt
No,
Keating.
40, 50-year-old.
That his dad was ragging the hell.
His dad turned 77 this weekend, by the way. That was part of the
He
celebrations.
was ragging the hell out of that car. And
It's
I just
180
love
kilowatt, old school GTV.
I just love that you can still take an old school car, bog standard, go rag on it, and still drive it home. Like usually everyone's kind of precious about an old car, but
And
that's
what's the mileage on your car now?
316,000 kilos.
No, and it still ran nicely.
So it's still.
And I mean,
You drove it like I said
He
to.
drove it there. He blasted around the track. You blasted around the track. He drove back home. We drove here with it tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's and I just saw that going down the back, going down the front straight. So I was there when Nico was there the previous time. So I know like But now I knew he was going a hell of a lot faster because I just see this little puff when he went off the accelerator down to turn 1. It's like, okay, now he's going now. He's not holding back. But you also, by the way, you were driving. I mean, you were not playing around with your car.
Depends on who's asking. I just took like an easy driver on the track.
Well, we could smell it, and everyone else around me could smell it, basically. So.
Must have been a leak somewhere.
It's the clutch slipping and fist
the brakes, basically.
So speaking of project things, so I've been doing a few things to my daily driver, to my 4C. I've put in a very big intercooler. I've replaced all the hoses and the verter valve and all these little kind of.
And when you say you're doing all these things,
I had it done. Okay.
I think I worked more on Andre's 4C this weekend than he's ever worked on it.
Well, that's true. It doesn't take much.
But I mean, that's also kind of due to negligence.
I want to work on my car, but the problem is that you can't get under my car. There's no jack that works with it. So.
Yeah, no.
It's fine. You just climb into the... So what I realized is the best way to work on a 4C is you climb into the boot of it.
Yes.
And you sit in the back of the boot
And
you fix whatever you need
Yeah,
to
that's not going to work for me because I don't think I'll fit in the boot.
It works for the stuff from the top, but from the bottom you've got.
Andre was kind of looking like, don't crack it. I'm like, dude, this is carbon fiber. It's not going to
No,
crack.
it's not carbon fiber. That's like plastic. But anyway,
Well, anyways, it's strong enough.
It worked. It held up.
The bill is in the mail.
Guys, other than the Alpha Track Day, have you guys driven anything interesting in the last couple of months since we last sat around the table?
Jeez, I have to think.
I've
I
driven.
told you that I drove a Corsa.
You did tell me that you drove an Opel.
Well, I've actually driven something cool. I don't know how interesting it would be for some
did you
people,
drive?
but I drove a 1970s Toyota FJ.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Old Land Cruiser.
Is that like the one that was on the Top Gear special when they went to like Burma? Was it the one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the shape.
Where
That's
Was it a
Snake.
petrol or a diesel?
It was a petrol. It's I'm not sure what motor
it have the
they
stock
have. It's
or
the
the-
inline 6
Okay,
stock. Yeah. It's the
So quite
stock.
frankly, the weather we're having tonight is probably thanks to you and the global warming you've caused.
Yeah.
I mean, with me, funny enough, was another 1970s FJ with Lexus V8 in it. So
Nice.
together we kind of did the world a favor. But yeah, we kind of went to Atlantis with it, and what was fun is it was the bog standard FJ that I was driving was the only one that never got stuck, and it was going like a trooper. And I must admit, as much as I'm more a Land Rover guy, that FJ was just brilliant. It was just brilliant. I still don't understand why you have to do the diff lock on the outside, which is stupid in all Toyotas.
It's old.
Even modern Toyotas kind of has that. Like
I think they like sorted out with the more recent models, but I mean,
Gives you
up
time
until
to get out
fairly
and think about
recently,
what
you
you
still
do.
had to lock the
yeah,
diff locks.
you have to think about what you're doing. So
Do I
that
really
was
wanna go
quite
up here?
interesting. And I mean, we got in it in Brackenfell at a warehouse. The car's never been, it's never been to Atlantis, and it hasn't done more than go around the block. It was kind of bought as a collector's item to be, it's capable, but it's kind of been bought and put into a collection of like a fleet of cars. Now, I mean, we started, obviously the battery was dead. Started it, drove it to the petrol tank, filled it up with its ungodly sized tank, and drove it to Atlantis, had a jolt in it, and came back.
It's a Toyota, bro.
Brilliant. I mean,
I shall
that was
be
cool.
doing a review soon about one of my cars when it hits a specific milestone of mileage.
Ooh.
What mileage is that?
Let's call it a 360 review.
Oh,
Are you willing to give up your Alpha membership for that, basically? Like an Alpha Club membership for that? Is that
But I'm also planning some upgrades for all of my cars.
Nice.
So
You're on a roll now. You're
on
done
a
with the
roll.
watches, and now that's the next.
I won't say I'm done with the watches, but yeah, I'm pausing.
Yeah.
yeah.
Pausing. I bought a lot of watches recently. That's also
But I mean, you've got to watch for each day now, basically. But
of the month, yes.
Yeah.
Of the year.
Yes. You better watch yourself with those watches.
What is kind of interesting? It's kind of cool. It's like, okay, I bought a Lotus, but that's this watch. Cool. This watch paid for this Lotus. You know, it's kind of cool actually. It's like you said, it's like having money in the bank, but it's not in the bank. It's on your
Cash
wrist.
in your arm, bro.
Please
So-
don't rob Andre.
Obviously,
I'm wearing a cheap watch today, by the way.
obviously, with what I do for a living, I get to drive really interesting cars all the time, which is kind of the
Why you do it?
biggest perk of my job. And I've been driving quite a few Ferraris lately, and
Surprise, surprise.
the sort of California line is the one that a lot of people sort of sniff at and go, "Oh, it's not a real Ferrari."
I like it because it's not a Mondial.
But
Jesus, that's like not a compliment. That's like a. Jeez, poof.
but
Yeah, that's like an ouch. Oh my heart.
the standard California, the old first generation California, I still maintain was a brilliant car, and today offers fantastic value for someone who's looking for a modern Ferrari with a dual clutch and a little bit of practicality and usability. You could potentially daily drive one if you wanted to. But we recently got into stock a California T, which
Yeah, pretty
is
cool.
the car that sort of replaced it. And the exterior is not vastly different, but the little changes they've made really makes it look a lot better than the first gen.
It's the 488 turbo motor in it as well.
It's not the 488 turbo motor. I don't know. It's a 3.9 liter.
But isn't it? It's
Twin turbo.
based on the motor. It's
I
kind
wonder-
of detuned.
I think it's based on the motor,
Yeah.
but I'm not quite sure.
I wonder
But-
where that 0.9 came from. For some reason, I kind of something in my mind is just saying me there's something that's a 2.9 and a V6 compared
He's still
to the
stuck in the Alpha, the Julia,
3.9
basically.
and,
VQ, like a no,
I
VQ.
didn't
No,
say,
it's
I
not.
didn't say.
It's not an alpha. It's a 3.9 liter V8.
If you want a better,
Yes.
better
Twin turbo.
if you
The
want
Alpha
a,
engine is that 3.9 motor with 2 cylinders chopped off.
But it shifts. I mean, the Cali T is properly quick, and it handles beautifully, and it's a really, really nice car to drive. And then we also briefly had a Portofino, which is obviously the car that replaced the Cali
latest.
T. And I must say, in some ways, yes, it's better. The interior is a much nicer place to sit. It's got all the later tech in it, and it is quicker. But the driving feel in the Cali T is just better for me. I think it's a personal
Is the
thing.
Portofino a bit too polished almost? or-
The Portofino it almost feels like it's a bit soft. The Cali T, it's not hard. It's still comfortable, but it feels more responsive because
sporty.
it's more immediate, if I can put it that way. Whereas the Portofino, you chuck it into a corner and it's almost like it just leans in and pitches a bit before it goes. Ooh, crap! Sorry, I'm hitting my mic here.
the sound
whereas
guy is
the-
messing up the sound.
Yes.
It's relatable. It's fine.
Kakmar is relatable.
The Cali T just for me feels nicer to drive, and by the same token, I also recently drove a Lamborghini,
Which one?
the LP560 Gallardo, and that
Manual or
it's e-gear. There's only one manual in the country, as far as I know. But anyway, regardless of the e-gear and its, love it or hate it kind of feel, that car for me, I can see the appeal of it because I can see why people would love the way that thing drives. It is so easy to drive at stupid speeds. Because it's just got immense grip and it just goes where you point it. It makes a fantastic noise. But I prefer the way that the Ferraris feel. And it's just, it's really sort of, I just found it really interesting because I'm driving all these different cars and I'm starting to realize that there are bad cars out there, but there are still cars they're all brilliant, but simply because I like the way this car drives specifically, I would be pulled more towards that than something else. And I think that's also where a lot of cars sort of get personality. And yeah, it was just a fun observation.
What works for you? What do you like in a car?
Yeah.
There are brilliant cars, like a Audi wagon. You know, I think it's a brilliant thing, but I don't particularly want one.
No.
I mean, it's if you needed a fast car that's a wagon, cool. They make cool wagons, but it's just not my thing.
That's what makes cars cool, right? It would be so boring if you all just liked the same thing.
All just like alphas, you know.
Yeah, you know, it would just be like it would just look like Italy in Cape Town. You
If we
know?
all
Which
just-
I'm not opposed
If
to.
we all
but
just liked Alpha Julius, you know, like
Yeah.
it would just been.
it would just be boring, you know.
Okay, Jake Paul, calm down. Okay. I want to talk about a car that you drove recently, but you're not mentioning it at all. Because you automatically, when I saw you, you said immediately you didn't like it. When we did the quintessential GT thing, what a GT driver does is we went to play some golf.
Yeah.
Recently, and then you rocked up in the Maserati
Gran Turismo S.
And the first thing I rocked because I thought it looked really cool.
And it sounds
So-
good.
Sounds good.
So-
He parked in the president's spot, the president of the golf club's parking bay. Like immediately allowed him to park there.
Very on brand
Very
for the
relatable
Maserati.
for-
Yeah, exactly. Relatable.
So here's the
Relatable,
interesting
yeah.
thing about that car, right? So I drove that car to the Golf. And when I got there, I was chatting to you and I said I didn't like it. There were things about it that I didn't enjoy, etc., etc. But I spent the whole weekend with that car because the next day I did the first ever induction noise breakfast run with it.
Yeah, it was good fun.
And after spending the whole weekend with the car, I sort of started coming around on it. And I would still personally rather buy a Ferrari
Or DB9.
or a DB9.
But then
But-
front engined or mid engined? You would buy a front engine because, like, I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
mean-
it's funny for me. You said you prefer the Ferrari, but my question would be: is if you compare the Gallardo, do you compare it? Would you? So, are you saying like you also prefer the more feel from a front engine car because the Gallardo and the F03 everything is mid engined, right?
A lot of people will say front engine Ferraris are one thing or the other, but at the end of the day, all Ferraris are mid engine. Even the ones with the engine at the front, they're
Hey,
mid
front
engine.
mid. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the difference in feel between the front mid engines and the mid engine cars are not as big as you might expect them to be.
They're also well balanced. They're not like
They're also well balanced. I think the main difference between them is that the front mid engine cars tend to be slightly softer in their setups and they tend to ride slightly higher because they are the more sort of GT setup cars. But they are essentially still mid-engine, so they still have that balance and poise that you get from something like a 430 or a 360 or whatever. But yeah, like I said, I was just, the more time I spent with that Maserati, the more I started to enjoy it. And the thing that kept coming back to me in the back of my head was, you know, I'm not really being fair because I jump from that into something like a 430 and I go, well, this is obviously much better. Or I
Same
jump
kind
into
of car, right?
or I jump into a California and I go, wow, this is amazing. Why can't the Gran Turismo be more like this?
Because it also doesn't cost as much, right?
Well, a decent California is going to cost you 1.8, 1.9 million rand now. A decent 430 or 430 Spider is going to be north of 2 bar. That Gran Turismo I was driving, 650 grand.
I mean, it's a lot of car for the money.
It is a lot of car for the money.
And they sound amazing.
It sounds
so good.
amazing,
Especially
especially when
half
you...
the price of the Cali. So
Yeah. I mean, it's half the price of the Cali and it certainly isn't
not
half the car.
yeah. And they're pretty cars. The
It's a
styling
pretty
is,
car. It is bigger.
Sounds good.
It's bigger than you might expect. I mean, it is a large car, but the party piece that it's got is that even with the driver's seat in my driving position, I can comfortably sit in the back. I don't know how Maserati manages to get their packaging so much better than everyone else because I can't sit in the back of a 911, I can't sit in the back of a DB9, I can't sit in the back of an XKR, but I am comfortable in the back of a
That's
Gran
quite
Turismo.
impressive, actually.
Yeah.
And I think the party piece of the one thing that car has, that sort of, if you look at this sort of, more exotic GT vehicle in that price range, what you're looking at is it's got a ZF gearbox. You don't have
Yeah.
that sort of dreaded 100 grand service or
Clutch worries.
So
clutch worries
that
that
car
you're gonna-
was available with what Maserati called the Cambio Corsa gearbox, which is essentially the 599 Ferrari gearbox. So you can have it with the F1 box, and I've driven them with the F1 box.
Is
and
that like the
it's-
first iterations of it that came out with that?
It was an option.
It was an option.
Why
So
would that be an
You
option?
paid more to have that because it's quick. It shifts quicker.
It shifts
It's
quicker.
supposed to be more sporty.
Okay.
And I believe it had shorter
Italian
ratios
thing I've
as
ever heard in
well.
my life. Two variations of auto.
But honestly, once you've driven one and you've learned how to drive an F1 box, they are brilliant. I love an F1 box.
When they're working.
But in that car, the auto is better.
It's a Grand Tourer. It should have
Exactly.
an
Yeah,
auto.
it kind of fits
Quick
the
enough.
purpose, right?
And you know, with
quick
the
enough.
pedals that it's got, it shifts pretty quickly. It's not a race car. So
Nobody needs to shift faster than a ZF 8-speed ZF.
I want to
box.
say
Exactly.
it's kind of funny how it's kind of all turned. Like we went to this like automated manual gearboxes through all of the car brands. I mean, each car brand that kind of made a sporty thing had like some automated manual clutch.
Single
except-
clutch and then the dual clutch.
Except Porsche. I don't think Porsche had something
PDK,
like
They
that.
PDK. They still have the
yeah,
PDK.
yeah,
still,
but they
still
didn't
have
have a bad version.
they didn't have a single clutch.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
never had
Automated,
a bad version of it.
um,
But anyways, and now everything's kind of turning back. I mean, all the modern M cars, all the Giulia, like everything has a ZF
8-speed
box.
ZF box.
Yeah,
It's so
Because
quick.
it's good
and they're
enough.
so quick.
Yeah.
You don't need anything more than
Well,
that.
except that-
It shifts as quick as anything. It's reliable.
That's what I wanna say.
If you pop it in auto, it drives like a limousine.
automatic
More
car.
calm.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, which is quite cool to
I
see.
fell
like-
in love with that box in the Giulia Super that I had. If you put it in dynamic mode, it crash shifts. It feels
Yeah.
like a freaking drag car. That thing is amazing. If you put it just in auto normal cruise mode, it feels like the latest luxury Mercedes that you're driving. It's just like you don't feel it shifting. So and you've got those nice pedals. It's
But
perfect.
I will also say this about the 8-speed ZF. As good and as brilliant as it is, it works best with cars that have reasonably good torque low
Yes.
down.
Turbo,
So
modern
something
turbo
with
cars.
something with a turbo in it, it works really well. I can't remember what it was, but I drove a car that kind of disappointed me because it had the 8-speed ZF in it, and I thought, okay, well, this gearbox is infallible. And because the car had a little bit of a dead spot in its torque curve, the gearbox was constantly changing up and down, trying to get into the torque band.
Was the torque curve in fifth gear?
No.
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
Luckily, it's not a
Yeah.
dual clutch transmission. Like it's,
So, guys, in closing, I think we've had a pretty interesting break. I think we've had lots of fun off the podcast.
We're just getting started though.
And I think if you haven't yet, you definitely should go check out our YouTube channel. We now have the Supra build happening on the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. There's a couple of questions about the Supra that keep coming through on various channels and comment sections and stuff. So I will sort of address those in a little vlog video that I'm putting together. But I think stuff that's coming up that's exciting. So the first thing, if you haven't seen it already, we are going to have a new look and image and new logo that's coming out,
New corporate identity,
a
if you
new
will.
corporate identity.
Which I just want to publicly thank Neil for, because we have been trying for a while to get something
Yeah, I
sorted,
mean,
and he
trying to
he
get
like,
the four of us to agree to something
He
is
like kind of made
yeah.
a meme of something and went off and designed something. It was like, oh, this is gonna work.
but actually, like I think, like, and the nice thing is we all had to incorporate everyone's ideas from the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a team effort to get to this point. A long team effort.
Yeah, no, it was
It's a team effort.
it was tough, but
We,
we got
were
there.
slightly distracted. That's not the only thing that we did.
Yeah.
All of us had a bit of a crazy time at work and everywhere else.
So that's coming. I don't want to give away too much just yet, but we are in talks with a pretty major brand to sort of partner with them on a number of projects. Specifically, they're going to be helping us out with certain things on the Supra build, and
all
even
the other
with
projects?
all the other projects, and even our dailies,
And giving back to the community.
and giving back to the community. And we're also going to be hopefully helping them grow their footprint in South Africa. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming there. We've got lots of cool guests that we are going to be bringing onto the show in this season. So that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
We are...
Exciting racing happening this year.
There is exciting racing happening
Exciting
this year.
events.
We're going to be doing the lemons again.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely. A lot of people have asked us if we're going to be doing the Neisner Hill climb in the Supra. So I just want to sort of explain very briefly. The Neisner Hill climb is an extremely prestigious hill climb event. It's not an event that you just enter and you go. You apply for entry.
Such a brilliant car as a Supra. There's
With
a
such
very
a
good chance
brilliant
that you
car
will-
of a Supra, we're hoping that
approved.
we'll be approved. But we have submitted an application.
And
But
some
it's
say there might be
With more applications
than-
coming.
Yeah. It's,
there may be more applications going in for other cars.
We shall be submitting
But-
more than one application.
yes.
But at the end of the day, it's not up to us whether we are going to be racing the Supra up the hill or not.
but we're hoping to.
But we're hoping to. And it would be an enormous honor to be able
And
to.
if you
to
want to
do
see
that.
the Supra go up the hill, speak up and say it.
Well, everyone at
Yeah.
Samola on
exactly.
Samola socials, basically.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for episode 1. We are back.
We're
Yeah.
back.
We're back,
And
and we're still classy.
Yeah, we're still classy.
we're still relatable.
We're still relatable.
Sometimes shit, but relatable.
So
So are we going to stay classy or are we going to stay relatable now?
no, we're gonna stay classy.
We stay close.
We're gonna stay classy.
Stay classy, San Diego.
Petrol aids.
Lekker.
more suppers.
So wat denk julle van Jaguar?
Shit.
Shirt.
Potkak.